Well, guys, first of all, I have to say I love this film. I was so moved by it. It's such an extraordinary feat. And
thank you.
I think one of the most amazing things about it is that I felt I got so close to your characters, even though, of course, it's bereft of flashbacks. You don't have any long forced monologues about your characters and all that stuff. But did you actually create your own backstories for your characters in order to get under their skin?
Yeah, we did. I think that was pretty important in telling this story. As you say, there's no real backstory that's sort of driven through the film and explained by dialogue, so it was important to just sort of work that out ourselves, you know. And I think Blake was just sort of someone that grew up on a farm, maybe in the middle of the countryside, very family orientated. But I mean, I don't want to give too much away of Blake's backstory, but you know, I think that was important in trying to, you know, do our best job in to portray these men.
Yeah. Like similarly, I think, as you say, it's essential, like who these men are or where they're from. And you only get that in tiny little bits, you know, throughout the film. So I used to do lots of stuff but I used to write letters home, you know, kind of in the downtime, as Schofield. So that was kind of my little way of, you know, staying in touch with home.
Great. And how many rehearsals went into each shot? I mean, it must have been such an extraordinary process to get everything under the skin.
I lost count. It was one of them things, we rehearsed for 6 months before we actually started shooting. One of the big reasons for that was to curate how long of set we needed each scene. You know, the set needed to be the length of the scene and the scene needed to be the length of the set. You know, so we found ourselves, you know, back in the November of last year, just walking in an open field, me, George and Sam, with our scripts in our hand, you know, doing it at 100% pace to get the measure of how long trench we need. But it was very, very well thought out, and all of it was this big choreographed dance and this whole bounce back and forth between the actors and the camera, and it just needed to click in order to work. It was a big teamwork and a big team effort.
Yeah, and I must imagine you've gotten closer to Roger Deakins than you ordinarily do with cinematographers because of that dance and how close you have to be with the cinematographer, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, Roger was kind of conceptually coming up with it with Sam. He often used to operate from a long distance away, though, operate a remote head on wheels, and then they'd have another operator, either Charlie or Pete or the grips, Gary and Malcolm, then operating a series of different bits of kit, you know, a stabilizer, a Trinity rig, or Steadicam. But to be honest, it's like we all kind of, as the process got on, the closeness came in like an unconscious communication. Like you sort of kind of was just a little nod, or like a kind of, you could kind of know just almost without speaking. And so by the end of it, you know, you just sort of like, and Roger as well as it is, you know, he's quite a quiet man. So if it was a good take, you'd sort of now and again get a little, you know, and that's it. But then for all of us on the kind of in the set, you know, someone getting some of those shots, it was like someone had scored a penalty. You know, like you'd get to the end of 5 minutes and Charlie would be blown, or Pete, you know, would be there with the Steadicam and they'd go cut, and Charlie would be like, yes, and we'd all be high-fiving, like, go on, you know. It's great.
So you're like develop a sense of telepathy with Roger Deakins. So even he's here in the hotel somewhere, you're maybe still beaming thoughts.
Yeah, I was just chatting to him in my head.
Do you have any battle scars left from the shoot? Because I imagine, especially you, George, I'm like, how can you get through this without getting pneumonia or...
We were pretty looked after. There's a bit on a bridge and I banged my chin kind of pretty bad, so I've got a tiny wee scar there, but otherwise I'm okay.
But that's a great story.
Yeah.
Cool.
I had shin splints throughout the whole shoot, really, and especially in that no man's land sequence with Blake and Schofield having to crouch, and you know, our quads were like 3 times the size after filming. So, but you know, even if you did have a few scars and bruises, you could never really complain because we had it so much easier compared to the men that actually fought. So you'd have a lot of reality checks on set about that. Yeah.
Cut. Very good. But I'd love to hear your reaction after, of course, doing all these shots so many times and rehearsing it so many times, sitting there in a theater watching the finished film for the first time, all these vignettes strung together to one complete piece. How did that feel?
It was amazing. It was really emotional to watch. I mean, the one thing that sort of surprised me, and something that I didn't pick up in the first read of the script, was there's almost like a hidden underneath story about missing home. There's a lot of references, especially from Blake's character. He talks about his mum a lot and his brother and his dog, you know, and there's this constant thing of missing home. And someone as, you know, like what we do, we're away from home a lot, you know, and I can relate to that, and I think audiences will as well.
Yeah, similarly for me, I watched it and I didn't expect to have this reaction, but I became very clear on who means most to me in my life. Like I think the film is almost the human story of like when you go through something massive, when you get really stretched by something, it's about then in those kind of, when you're at your last ebb, what you come back to. And in the watching of it, kind of experiencing that journey with these two men, it made me very clear on who I love most in my life.
If you don't get there in time, we will lose 1,600 men. Your brother among them. Good luck.